Hello there and welcome to another exciting day in our galaxy. In my video yesterday I talked about faction locks, and I promised you that today I will talk about faction triple lock, because that is a point you want to reach, but from that point there's something you have to think about again, and that's why I did this in a kind of a two-part video. The faction locks you find on the bottom of on the top of the left screen. There's ships, officers, command, and factions. And if you click factions there, you see the three main factions. That's the Federation, the Klingons, and the Romulans. And for all of those, you have to gain reputation while you're playing this game if you want to have nicer rewards, if you want to get better faction ships in the end, because the blueprints you can get via the faction shops. And there are some locks I talked about yesterday, and one of them is the 10 million lock. But it's wise not to bring just one faction to this 10 million lock, but all three. That's the so-called triple lock. But how to do that? And my advice is absolutely clear on that one. Do one after another. As I mentioned several times in several videos, some people say to do double faction is better. Others say single faction is better. From my personal experience, and I'm not playing this game for the first time now, it is to go single faction. That means to pick one of the factions and to start working on it until you have reached the 10 million lock. And when you're finished with that, start with the next one. But the importance to get to the triple lock is, first of all, get to the first one by doing missions, killing the hostiles of their arch enemies, so to speak. And as soon as you have reached enough reputation, you can do dailies and daily events and do that every day. And with that, in time, you will get to the 10 million. For beginners here in the game, it starts a bit insane, but it's not. You get more and more reputation in those events and everything and the missions, the higher you get. And when you have just started the game, you will need to work on your warp range to get to the first faction missions. But and I will talk about warp range in another video as well. But that's an important thing to do. Do only the missions of this faction. And when you got one to the 10 million and you start the next one, there is some good and some bad news. First of all, you will already be on a higher level than when you started working on your first faction. That means it will get faster because you can shoot higher hostiles, so higher level hostiles than before. That means you get more reputation for shooting those hostiles. But the bad news is, if you want to do that properly, don't do any more dailies or daily events for your first faction. You will do them automatically in some cases, but do not claim the rewards, because the rewards also mean minus reputation for the other factions, and you cannot have that with your second faction you're working on, to lose reputation by your first, because it's already on 10 million. That means you will lose a lot of reputation if you claim the daily rewards and do the daily events, and you will have to grind a lot to even that out with your second. You're just starting. And when you reach one at 10 million, that means the other two will be at minus 2 million usually. And it's easy to get out if you listen to the advice I gave in the other videos already, if you haven't done any of their missions yet. So let's say you started with the Federation and then want to do the Klingons once you reached 10 million on the Federation. When you reached 10 million at the Federation, as I said, don't do any dailies, any daily events. I know you all want the credits for ship blueprints, but don't do it. And don't wait for any certain ship before you start the second faction. I heard that sometimes as well, even in my own alliance, that people want to wait and first get a certain ship, and which takes ages in most cases, before they start working on the other factions. Now it's much easier to do the factions first, because once you did the second or the third, you will have so much credits by doing it that you can buy, for example, the epic ship for that faction. Yeah, it might not be the wanted one, but you will get an epic ship faster. And so once again, when you did your first faction, start immediately with the next. You will usually get a lot of the 2 million away by doing the missions you all saved. If you have listened to me and have done no Klingon missions while you were doing the Federation as your first faction, you will have a lot of Klingon missions left. And they will give you a lot of reputation as well. And that will get you very fast out of the 2 million. And then you, at the same time, you just do the usual kill hostiles of the arch enemy. In the case of the Klingons, you will have to hunt for Romulan survey ships. That's the fastest way to grind reputation. And then when you are out of the minus, you will get to the point where you can do Klingon daily events and Klingon dailies. That's what you should do then, and those you should claim, but not the ones of your first. And you do it as long as you reach 10 million with the Klingons then. And then you are finished with Federation and Klingons. And then there's the Romulans left. I know you can do it in a completely different order, but it's just my example. And then when you reached the second 10 millions with the Klingon, do the Romulans. And you do the same. You hopefully have listened to me and saved all Romulan missions you found until then. And so that will bring you out of the minus 2 million fast. And then you grind, if you do the Romulans, you grind Federation survey ships to get reputation. You do also, as soon as you can, the Romulan dailies and daily events. And then you are not allowed to take the Klingon and the Federation rewards from the dailies, and do not do the daily events for Klingons and Federation at that point until you reach the 10 million for the Romulans as well. And then you are in a very good position, why I say do this as fast as you can and not wait for any ships on one faction or whatever. As soon as you've reached 10 million on all three, that is the moment where you start doing the dailies and daily events for all three. So the sooner you get to that point, the better, because from that point on, you will cash in on all three. Because none of them can fall under 10 million. They are all locked there. And you can gain the benefits from having 3 factions. But there's one thing. From that point, I talked about in my last video that there's another lock at 1 billion. From that point, you have to choose once again one faction you want to proceed with. So people ask me, what should I choose then? Which is best? From my point of view, look at the ships that are coming later between the 10 million and the 1 billion and just have a look which ships you like the most. That is just my personal advice. If you like the Federation ships the most, do the Federation. If you like the Klingon ships more, do the Klingons. If you like the Romulan ships more, do the Romulans. But pick only one. It's the same like getting to the first lock. You have to pick one to do it fast. But there's one difference. You can still do the dailies and the daily events for the other 2 factions. It will not stop you for long. Because when you reach the 10 million on all 3, you are at a point where you can kill higher level hostiles. And then again, kill the hostiles of your arch enemies. And then you will fast grow out of those 10 million. And with rising reputation, the rewards from your chosen faction will rise a lot. And so that evens out the minus reputation from the other 2. So from 10 million on, I don't give you the advice to skip the other 2. You can do them. You just need to grind hostiles to give it a little bit of traction. And when you reach level 38 and get access via the mission Dark Space to a lot of new systems, there are tons of new missions. And there my old advice counts again. If you are bringing the Federation to the 1 billion lock, don't do missions from the other 2 while you're doing this. Keep them for later. That is the same as before, but you can do all the dailies, you can do all the daily events, you can manage that. But by grinding higher level hostiles from the arch enemy, so in case of the Federation, it will have to be Klingon ships that you are hunting. If you're Klingon, hunt Romulan traders. If you're Romulan, hunt Federation traders. By grinding, you give it some traction, and then the events give you much more than what you lose by doing the events for the others. But only do the missions for the faction you've chosen. And that will bring you to the 1 billion lock. And I said yesterday, some people would say that's insane, but look at my Klingons. It's not that long ago that they were at 10 million, and I did exactly what I told you. And I'm on my path there, only 56 million away from the next step with Glorified. There are steps in between, of course, and always watch out when you're going higher that your ship strength is good enough, because with rising reputation, the hostiles you have to kill for your daily rewards are climbing as well. And from 30 million on, so 30 million reputation, you have to mine 4-star ore. Crystal for the Klingons, as an example. And so you must be able to do it. So don't go to the 30 million when you have reached your triple lock before level 38 and before you have access to 4-star mines, except you're in a territory that has the mines you need. But if you don't own a territory where you have those mines you need, don't go to 30 million before you can access the space and have the range and have a Amalgam, for example, is very good with high warp range for doing that. But don't go to 30 million. But you can easily get yourself under 30 million again by just killing hostiles of your own faction. So you can repair it if it happens. But that's one thing you should keep in mind. And that's still the way to proceed after the triple lock. Pick one faction again and go ahead, because you see I'm 56 million away from Glorified. That means it's just 56 million between me and the Corinar blueprints. They are up for grabs, so to speak. And that's how I so quickly did it, to get from 10 million to 383 million. It's not such a long time I needed for that, because I listened to myself. And I hope that was helpful for you if you reach a triple lock. And I advise you to reach it quickly in this game, and how to proceed then. And if you want to know anything else about the game, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.